A while back, I watched this video by Globert called I Spent 30 Days in a Dead Game, and without getting too into detail about what he did, I want to give my props by saying this is the most moving piece of media I've ever seen. The video was a re-examination of a place forgotten by time where people actually used the internet to find genuine human connection. And by the end of this video, it left me a sobbing mess of my own tears. This video inspired me to look at forgotten places in my past, and with the help of the internet, remember some of the things we forgot in ours. There are two places I want to take you to today. Places forgotten in our childhood, and places forgotten in depictions of the future. Each place is not necessarily a physical location, rather they are a screenshot of events occurring at a particular point in time. With that said, take your pick. If you've been on Instagram lately, there's been an influx of these kinds of videos where they present elements of early 2000s childhood for nostalgia engagement. In particular, I've been hooked on these kinds of reels recounting the early Minecraft versions which I used to play as a kid.
Hey man, are you crying?
No, I'm not! This restarted an old debate about early Minecraft, with one side arguing, old Minecraft is only subjectively good because the nostalgia you experience resurfaces the joy you used to feel, and the latter responding, no, old Minecraft was objectively good because the game was fundamentally more aligned with what made it good in the first place. Dialco is a subscriber of the latter idea. Dialco is a video essayist much like myself who focuses primarily on Minecraft related subjects. In Dialco's video, It's Not Nostalgia, Old Minecraft Was Great, Dialco argues that while nostalgia plays a role in the appeal of older Minecraft versions, he believes that they are inherently more satisfying to play because of the element of simplicity.
A lot of the points I see kind of come together under this same umbrella, the same sort of dichotomy that I've noticed. Old versions just don't really have as much stuff in them, and modern versions do. They have so much more stuff. Some people might be tempted to look at old versions and say, oh, you know, there's nothing really to do. I mean, there's no enchantments, there's no potions, there's no strongholds, there's not as many things to explore, no villagers, no bosses even. What do you even do in this version? But here's my opinion. Those things really don't matter that much in the long run. If you're going to be playing on a Minecraft world for months, for years, what you have to do is set your own goals, make up your own projects and achievements that you want to do, instead of relying on things that the game is giving you to do. And I think that's always been the strength of Minecraft. You know, it's not like the vast majority of other games. This is a game where you can do basically whatever you want to do.
To Dialco, the appeal of older Minecraft lies in the degree of self-determination available to the players. The idea is that early Minecraft versions gave you more freedom by restricting your choices and giving you full reign to determine how you want your Minecraft world to go. And I agree with him. I believe early Minecraft fostered a greater sense of self-determination that is integral to its identity, and it lost this trait as it progressed into later versions. To make my point, let's look at the history of Minecraft and how it blasted into the limelight. On May 17, 2009, Marcus Persson, aka Notch, released his earliest version of Minecraft on a now forgotten corner of the internet called TIG Source. It was essentially the same as modern day Reddit minus the racism.
So nothing like Reddit at all.
Yeah.
TIG Source was unique for fostering an environment where indie game developers could show off their projects and organically build up communities around their games. For someone like Notch, this was a gold mine of feedback and opportunities. As the comments came in, the forum was flooded by fervent support for Notch and his game, and this is where we really see Minecraft start to take on its core identity. Notch opens up the thread with the following. It's an alpha version, so there might be crashes. You can read some background and insight on my blog available from the game page. The main inspiration for this game is Infiniminer, but it's gonna move in a more Dwarf Fortress way, gameplay wise. Oh hell, that's pretty cool. I just dig around in the ground a bit and suddenly I'm in this underground cave. Great sense of exploration already. The animations are fantastic. It's generally really derivative at the moment of Infiniminer. Building is so much more fun with nicely textured blocks. I hope you make something really good of this, dude. I think it has a lot of potential. I made a castle. Normally it would be night and there would be lightning, but alas, those things do not exist. And now screenshots of my creation, because the memories must live on. Behold, the Tower of Might. This brings back memories of playing with Legos. Ah, the good times. Reading through this, I found it endearing seeing how excited people were for such a bare bones version of the game. You are placed in an empty world with no objectives, no story, no opposition. It's only you with a handful of blocks. Practically speaking, there was nothing to do. This was the first version of Minecraft, so a lot of features like the near infinite world generation that Minecraft is known for today wasn't even implemented yet. The player was stuck in a 256 by 256 grid, and that was it. There were no trees, no water, no inventory, no hostile mobs. Even Steve wasn't implemented yet as a player character. That's right, Steve was originally a mob that spawns in and runs around flailing its arms like a madman. You see, if you compare this version to today's, it's like a night and day difference. If I were to play the devil's advocate here, it would stand to reason that because there are comparatively less features in early Minecraft, that players should have been bored doing nothing in the alpha version. Furthermore, with competitors like Elder Scrolls, Portal 2, and Dead Space 2, who all have infinitely more features, Minecraft should have been uninteresting and thrown aside like most other indie games at the time. However, I think this line of thinking is flawed. Let's look at the concept of choice overload. This is the idea that when presented with many options, people tend to freeze up in the decision-making process, ultimately feeling unsatisfied with their choice. To illustrate my point, I want to do some participative testing. Let's say you are Elon Musk, and on this particular day, you're fixing to see just how big of a loser you can be before lunch hits. Now, there's a couple of options for you to pick from. Do you A, wear your Nazi uniform and excuse it as, "It's just autism, bro"? Or B, make up a bold-faced lie about a video game and expose yourself embarrassingly in front of thousands of people in a live stream?
Oh, standing still!
Well, before you make your choice, there's a couple of other things you have to consider. If you wear the uniform, that means you can no longer watch Grimes have steamy coitus with your burly executives before busting a fat wad, because then you will need to take the uniform off, and that's just too much of a hassle. You must also consider that clearly lying about being good at a video game can set off enough people to start pissing on you on Twitter, fulfilling your humiliation kink. But going down this route means you might have to hire a minority and pay them money. Yikes. Obviously, the example I gave here is pretty silly, but my point still stands. When you are faced with a plethora of choices and considerations to account for, you can easily get overwhelmed. This is why CEOs like Jeff Bezos only ever make a handful of good quality choices a day, because anyone would go insane if they tried to account for every variable before making a decision. Interestingly enough, the alpha version of Minecraft follows the same principle. By limiting their selection to a handful of choices, the player actually walks away satisfied knowing that they made the best possible decision. This is part of the reason why the forum is filled with praise and excitement from early adopters despite their limited choices. There are countless videos and pictures of crude fortresses put together with cobblestone and wooden planks, and people even went a little silly by role-playing storylines in the same structures they built. This is important because while the barren wasteland of early Minecraft seemingly had nothing to offer, paradoxically, it offered everything to the players. By giving players an expansive blank canvas with only a handful of blocks to use, Notch incidentally facilitated an environment where human imagination is not only encouraged, but rewarded. And we see the same sentiment carried forward in the demo version of Minecraft Pocket Edition, Minecraft Pocket Edition Lite. The regular Minecraft Pocket Edition was Mojang's move to expand into the untapped iPad kid market. Likewise, Minecraft Pocket Edition Lite acted as a sample dish to edge financially restrained kids like myself into buying the full version. So in this demo version, we find much of the same conventions as in the classic alpha worlds, a finite 256 by 256 grid with just as limited a selection of blocks available. More specifically, in your inventory is a handful of stackable items like cobblestone, dirt, sand, sandstone, gravel, flowers, and cacti, and everything else with infinite uses / amounts or is simply not available. This makes sense because Mojang wanted to limit the amount of fun you can have by restraining the player's access to certain blocks and showcasing what you can have if you bought the full version. However, Mojang failed to account for one factor: human ingenuity. You see, for a genius 11-year-old me, this limitation posed no such challenge as I proceeded to build the shittiest, absolute eyesores of modern houses to show off to my parents, only for them to give me that leave me alone smile that parents pull when they want to be respectful after seeing some straight doo-doo. I also hit a phase where I was obsessed with cliffside builds and underground bases to mimic my favorite YouTuber at the time, EthosLab. So, for those who don't know, EthosLab was a huge but low-key Minecraft creator rivaling the likes of Captain Sparkles and Skydoes Minecraft. One of the main appeals of Etho is the candid, collected, yet creative way he approached problems in his videos.
Okay guys, we have hopped over to a creative world now. So either items are going to flow from this one into this one. If that is addition, that would be addition. -2, -2, -2, which is -6. Please tell me you guys are following me. And there it is, guys. We got it in. That is, oh, such a relief to get this figured out.
Although Etho made me a more resourceful player, it also led to the god-awful architecture I showed you earlier. But notice how this is the same exact behavior the alpha players exhibited 2 years prior. Despite the limited access, finite real estate, and lack of objectives, the players flourished in ways no one could have imagined. They populated worlds with crudely built box fortresses to protect both themselves and their resources like kings of old. They littered their perimeters with torchlight and stone walls to keep the creatures of the night at bay. Sometimes they even made straight up nonsense just because they could. When you combine these elements with the ambient fog, what results is a unique liminal atmosphere where the world feels eerily empty, but is also comforting. The best way I could describe it is the feeling that you get when you walk into the kitchen, the blinds are slightly ajar, and the afternoon sun hits at just the right angle to get this look. It's the feeling that you will be okay, that even if you do not control your life out there, in here, you decide your fate. However, if we contrast this to today's Minecraft, what we find instead is an inhibition of this human connection in the name of financial success. At this point, Minecraft was already a multi-million-dollar IP, and later when Notch sold Mojang and Minecraft to Microsoft, Mojang's sole priority stopped being the players. Rather, they needed to accommodate for the interests of a new set of stakeholders, called the shareholders. So for those who don't know, shareholders are investors who buy ownership of a company, usually putting up multiple millions of dollars to get a sizable chunk of equity. This equity represents a percentage of all the company's profits, which the investor has a right to. The idea is to receive more money than they spent and accumulate the extra dollars until they 10x or 100x their investment. It just so happens, however, that the shareholders of Microsoft do not give a shit about the players and only care about lining their own pockets. So, to appease these shareholders, the developers now need to perform a balancing act between satisfying the players and driving up profits. What results is a number of decisions that do not necessarily align with the original vision of Minecraft. Take the end dimension, for example. Notch already started development on a final destination as early as May 19, 2011. Starting off as the Sky Dimension, no, not that Sky Dimension.
Man, come on, man! I've been waiting on that all day! So it's not real? Notch!
Zeus! Is this how you face me, coward?
It was soon rebranded into the End Dimension after encountering a bunch of problems which harmed performance significantly. When the End Dimension officially released 6 months later, the End was a clear-cut boss arena dedicated to the Ender Dragon, whose defeat rewarded the player with a shower of experience, an Ender Dragon egg, and a way back home. To Notch, this was a fitting conclusion to the player's journey, and this was reflected in the thank you screen, which recounts the player's journey throughout the entirety of Minecraft. Where it starts to stray, in my opinion, is the addition of the Outer Islands. Added 5 years later as part of the combat update, the Outer Islands represent a revamp of Notch's vision of the End. It included exciting new additions like the End Cities, the End Ships, the End Gateways, and the infamous Shulkers. While there's no publicly available data that I could find, we can easily infer that Microsoft experienced a fat surge of revenue from updates like this, because they brought back interest to Minecraft en masse through creators like who indirectly garnered interest by uploading content in the updated areas.
He must have.
Let's go!
Oh, my.
Regardless of Microsoft's financial benefits, they still changed Notch's original vision of the end. Now, the end is no longer the final destination of Minecraft players, it is instead a mere stepping stone to acquire better gear and better equipment to face another monster on the horizon. This is the reason why there's such a great push nowadays towards adventure rather than creation, because as long as they keep us adventuring, they can keep moving the goalpost one step back at a time. And if the adventure never ends, the players keep coming back, and the shareholders don't stop getting every squeeze of milk out of this money cow that they call Minecraft. They effectively turn Minecraft into a money printing machine.
Record. Alright guys, I'm playing Minecraft and these
I believe the reason why early versions of Minecraft elicit such a strong sense of nostalgia is because they represent a time where we were truly free to be who we wanted to be. We imprinted this image of a foggy, open world game with its empty hillsides, cavernous caves, and harshly textured world with the memory of freedom and exploration. However, with the change in Mojang's focus towards its shareholders rather than its players, this desire for self-determination grows ever stronger as the Minecraft we fell in love with becomes forgotten in the annals of history. In this way, I think the yearning for simplicity in Minecraft reflects our inner desire to control our own lives.
Hey, I don't mean to come off as judgmental or anything. I just noticed that you talk a lot about nostalgia. What's that all about? Well, I just feel like I was born in the wrong generation, right? Like, I feel like the older generation was generally a lot more social and welcoming, and I just don't see a lot of that in today's generation. Okay, well, that's valid. That's valid. In that case, what time period do you feel like you belong in then? Oh, most definitely 1900s America. Just because I feel like it was a lot more economically prosperous. Sorry, the 1900s? Yeah, like the Roaring 20s. The Jazz Age, the fight against the Red Wave, McCarthyism. No, like, you... In 1900s America. God, there you go again with that racist shit, man. I'm telling you. I'm just saying. You know damn well we're two shades too dark to be considered human beings in 1900s America.
Speaking of the 1900s, Retrofuturism is a creative movement that stems from the people's anticipation of what's to come. These pieces were made in a time of rapid technological advancements, and people often woke up in a completely different world after mere decades. Remembering these past depictions of the future is important because they act almost like screenshots of public sentiment at a given point in time. Take the 1900s, for example. This was a period marked by rapid technological growth and innovation facilitated by the Industrial Revolution. During that period, machines ran artisans out of employment as cheap alternatives to make standardized goods. This indirectly led to the rise of the working and middle classes who could now build their wealth through merit, not royal lineage. However, the miracles this technology brought about came with a price. Inhumane living conditions were commonplace around this time due to a mix of mass immigration, hastily put together housing, and ignorance on the effects of pollution. People were also expected to work a minimum of 12-hour days at 6 days a week in hot, cramped, and dirty sweatshops with no safety codes to protect them. This grim reality was reflected in contemporary and retrofuturistic pieces. Artists captured the misery of the working class in depressing fashion, making you feel the humid air of cramped bodies, the furnace heat through your clothes as you toil away for meager pay, and the grim future you face with towering machinery and steam. In this way, Retrofuturism acted as a way to capture the challenges of the working class and the general pessimism of the Victorians projected outwards into the future. Another factor related to the rise of Retrofuturism is the apparent trend of widespread optimism in the aftermath of major conflicts. For example, the Roaring 20s was a period of economic prosperity and technological advancement which followed the conclusion of the First World War. Soon afterwards came the space race, the invention of the internet, and a booming post-war economy after the conclusion of the Second World War. This trend is important because it implies that prolonged exposure to death and misery creates the ideal conditions for society-wide advancements to occur, advancements that we also saw in the Belle Époque. The Belle Époque, or Beautiful Era, is a period of peace and technological advancement in France which followed the conclusion of the Franco-Prussian War. It was in this era that we saw the creation of the Exposition Universelle, or the Paris Exposition. While they displayed many jaw-dropping technologies at this fair, I want to focus on a particularly unknown set of retrofuturistic pieces that was uncovered fairly recently, about 39 years ago in 1986. It was called Un l'an 2000, or in the year 2000. Initially created for the 1900 Paris World Exhibition, Un l'an 2000, or EL2 from now on, was a collection of images created by Jean-Marc Coté, Louis Villemard, and a plethora of other artists who were unfortunately unnamed. These prints were supposed to be widely distributed on cigarette boxes and postcards, yet they only ever got as far as prototyping, and the prints did not officially see the light of day for many years. Until one Christopher Hyde discovered them in the back of a catalog and lent them to Isaac Asimov, who published them in his book for all to see. EL2 contains a total of 78 speculative activities set in the year 2000, and I gotta say, looking at these pieces is a surreal experience. I hate to sound like an art snob here, but some of them are just bang on or clearly going along the right direction. For example, if you take a look at this one here called, Cinema Phonotelegraphic Correspondence in English, this is just straight up FaceTime. Obviously, there's the lady being shown in the projector and the guy speaking into the mic to talk, but I don't know what this other guy here is supposed to be doing. I'm assuming he's this dude's assistant, so is he encoding his message before sending it over to the lady? Is he perhaps Elon Musk's ancestor watching his wife get spicy with his boss? I don't know. Apart from that, the other interesting ones that I found were the casual day-to-day life of Parisians, but they're all flying for no reason. For example, this one only says lawn tennis, and as advertised, they are playing tennis, but they're all floating over the net. And then there's this other net under it that I guess is supposed to catch the tennis balls if it falls. But then I feel like doing tennis this way would be exponentially harder than regular tennis. So is the artist saying future players are fucking superhumans strapped to wings like Sam Wilson? Again, I can only guess as to what motivated the artist to make this, but regardless of my confusion, sifting through these pictures made me feel a sense of awe and wonder, because these are actual time capsules that give us a peek of what France was like in the past, and also what they hoped it would become in the future. Lore aside, covering all 78, technically 69,
Nice.
is still quite a lot to cover, so I'm going to focus solely on the one category that I think is the most insightful. If you're interested in seeing all of them for yourself, I'll leave the link in the description to the website. Otherwise, if you want me to go on another deep dive on more retrofuturistic art, please let me know in the comments. So I identified 4 major categories which all images fall into. Let's look at the biggest category with 27 images that I titled Underwater Stuff. In this category, the name is self-explanatory. Each image depicts an aspect of the French lifestyle, but translated into an underwater space. More specifically, there seems to be a large focus on leisurely activities and entertainment across all underwater works. Firstly, the artist depicts a gathering of spectators donning pressurized diving helmets while cheering on racers atop domesticated fish. Likewise, in this version of the year 2000, people did away with boring old regular land automobiles and used various kinds of submarines in their stead. Here we see a group of working-class Parisians hitching a ride in the state-sanctioned whale bus on the way to work. In comparison, just 8,000 kilometers away in the Gulf of Mexico, we see vacationers spending their days enjoying their leisurely solo submarine yachting sessions, and accompanying them are the eccentric horse divers exploring the colorful reefs of the Gulf. Then, oh, what's this? The camera pans over and settles on an opening amongst the nearby kelp forest. It seems we have 2 lovers who are just about concluding their romantic kelp hike. It is here where the 2 lovers call over an incoming underwater autobus and settle into a seat amongst the visiting families. As the bus traverses through other tourist sites like the famous Oceanic Palace Cave, they see all sorts of exotic animals and plant species like the elusive testicule melodorant jellyfish, along with the Mibuf molecule sea anemone. Fascinating. Along their journey, they pass by other sites like the annual free-for-all hunt, wherein our couple almost witnesses a reckless gentleman get decapitated by a great white shark. And next to those gentlemen is a man wrestling his would-be wife away from an intrusive abyssal monster in a proposal gone wrong. To their relief, the bus passes by the famous hippopotamus guard, undoubtedly en route to save the earlier couple. After such an eventful afternoon, our couple expresses their thanks to the driver and swims off into the underwater casino to relax after a long underwater day. Now, while I made up this story, the point remains that Un L'an 2000 clearly conveys what French society considered important in the year 1900. From the various scenes presented, we can infer that they placed a great level of import on sports and leisure time. This makes sense because France was only 106 years detached from the French Revolution by this point. Keep in mind, before the Revolution, only the rich had the privilege of spending their days playing for leisure, whereas the poor spent their days doing back-breaking field work from sunup to sundown, barely even getting by on bread, soup, and nearby fish if they were lucky. This was the way things were for approximately 1,300 years since the establishment of the French monarchy. It is no wonder that the French value things like individual freedom, equal opportunities, and unity among all citizens because they've been denied these things for most of their history. Therefore, by depicting everyone enjoying such leisurely activities, the artists implicitly advocate for the same values the revolutionists fought for. Regarding the whole underwater theme, that's a whole separate topic. This is actually a direct inspiration from a popular science fiction book called 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Written by Jules Verne and published in 1870, it follows the silly hijinks of Professor Aronnax and his companions Ned Land and Conseil as they pursue and get captured by this dude called Captain Nemo, who runs the Nautilus, a super advanced submarine beyond its time. Who these characters are and what motivations they have are not important to this video. Instead, it's the underwater sights that they saw during their time aboard the Nautilus. For example, Aronnax and the crew witnessed all kinds of exotic wonders that would have baffled the readers at the time. The book describes many encounters with a wide range of animals like sharks, sperm whales, and dugongs, all the way down to deep sea creatures like the anglerfish, black dragonfish, and the glowing jellyfish. What these animals have in common is that the average European would not have encountered them in their life. Now imagine being a Parisian in the year 1900. You are at the cusp of a world-changing industrial revolution, and accompanying it are all kinds of exotic inventions sprouting from brilliant minds all over the globe. Only 19 years ago were you introduced to the potential of electric power and how it can light the dark chambers of any room with a simple switch. Now you're told that we've reached a point where we have the technological means to not only explore the sea, but maybe even master it. When I put it in this way, it's no surprise that they were so optimistic about their future. Only 29 years ago did France and the newly formed German Empire put an end to the Franco-Prussian War. After experiencing so much death, starvation, and destruction, when the people are told that their futures will be filled by widespread prosperity and equality, can you really blame them for daring to dream? We've been to all sorts of places throughout this journey. We first paid homage to the early days of Minecraft and outlined how it evolved throughout the years. We also examined how forgetting its identity in the pursuit of financial gain resulted in a gaping hole felt by modern players as the Minecraft they fell in love with faded into obscurity. Lastly, we observed the optimism of post-war populations immortalized in retrofuturistic pieces of art. With this in mind, one question remains. What is the appeal of forgotten places? The appeal of forgotten places is the people that we were. Nowadays, we are so caught up with a deluge of short-term problems to the point that many of us don't even get the chance to appreciate what we've accomplished. Much like in Alpha Minecraft, we started with nothing. We knew nothing. We were nothing. Yet, despite our limitations, we built ourselves up one block at a time. Was it pretty? No. Did we make mistakes along the way? Absolutely. Regardless, we built ourselves up, we innovated, and we reached heights your kid self would have never imagined. Though some of us may not be in a position that we dreamt of, you've fought through the struggles of your personal life. You've witnessed your lows and clawed your way out into the sun. So now remains one question. Can you dare to dream one more time?